can you give an overview of the current state of eating disorders in Korea and like share any facts that you have about eating disorders in Korea?
한국의 섭식장애는 체감상, 경험한 사람의 체감상 굉장히 많고, 특히 발병 연령이 점점 더 어려져서 지금은 10대 초반 아이들이 굉장히 많은데요. 근데 문제는 섭식장애에 대한 지도층의 관심이 너무 적어서 제대로 된 유병률 조사도 이루어지지 않고 있고, 연구는 더더욱 연구자들도 없고, 외국처럼 뭐 미국이나 유럽이나 호주나 아니면 가까운 일본이나 홍콩, 대만처럼 재단이라든가 학회라든가 이런 것도 전무한 상태입니다. We know so many people, especially young girls and women are suffering right now, but there are no numbers, proven numbers. I talked to a professor in Japan via Zoom, and I told her almost desperately, no one cares about us. So we should help ourselves.
I also spoke to someone from Belgium, and also their country doesn't have any data. And that was what they said, that you need to talk about your own experiences so that people will actually understand. How did you get involved in eating disorder advocacy in Korea? And yeah, what motivated you to do this?
Actually, I published my memoir on my experience, and the book is titled Swallowing Practice. And then last winter, I was working for a digital therapeutic startup, and it was developing the eating disorder treatment app, mobile app. So I involved in this, and I was very frustrated at that time because they used my experience, but never gave any credit for it. So I was very frustrated. And one day I read a news article about the Korean Society for the study of obesity, and it angered me more because the obesity industry is very rich. So I wanted to have our own academy for eating disorders, and I contacted Professor Yuli Kim. She's the most famous person in Korea, maybe as far as I know, in the area of eating disorders. So I visited her, and she said even though we launched the KAED, nobody would show interest. So we'd better hold a PR event before launching the academy. So she suggested me to hold our first eating disorders awareness week.
Yeah, and that's how you got started. Yeah.
Actually, the background poster is our poster for our first eating disorder awareness week.
Oh,
Yes.
nice. Third question, again, you can answer in Korean if you want. What are some of the unique challenges faced by people with eating disorders in Korea compared to other countries? I think, like, I'm from Hong Kong, so I think there's a lot of like Asians. We like being
네.
thin. That could be an answer, but what's your opinion on it?
The most difficult challenge I have, I must take was there are no such advocacy in Korea. Not at all. We, I found this small non-profit organization called Rabbits in Submarine School Collective myself to organize our first EDAW, but it's the only organization. here in Korea. What surprised me the most was actually the pro community was proliferated in Korea too. I didn't notice before I prepared for the eating disorders awareness week, but while I writing my memoir, I was very surprised to recognize belatedly that the pro subculture had already spread here a long time ago and been thriving all the while. Teenage girls, presumptive on Twitter posted grotesque pictures, so-called bony spin in Korean, like inspiration pictures, uh, then identified themselves as pro-ana. Before noticing that, I thought pro-ana only existed in Western countries. An investigative TV show recently covered this subject, and its headline went, "People longing to be bony thin," never mentioning eating disorders. And I saw the scene where the reporter, young, successful professional woman, sat opposite to her interviewee, a 28-year-old chronic anorexic woman with her face blurred out. And this ill woman complained about her fat body, but actually not fat, very skinny and gaunt. And the camera showed pathetic things all the way, all the way in. 어떻게 설명해야 될지 모르겠는데, 어, 삽입장에 대한 인식이 너무 적은 반면, 프로아나에 대한 선정적인 보도는 너무 많아서 프로아나에 대한 지나친 관심이 오히려 해가 되고 있어요. 그래서 인식주간이 끝난 뒤에 저와 친구들은 언론 인터뷰에 응하면서도 굉장히 언론과 싸워했습니다. We should fight against the media because they prefer sensational journalism. Yeah.
Oh, they're making it sound like it's something cool, and they're like, "Oh my
네.
God, look at her arm." And then, but it's something that we should be helping them. In your experience as an activist, have you seen any misconceptions or stigmas that people have told you about, and how do you address these stigmas?
일단 한국에는 치료자 자체가 없습니다. Very rare. We have very rare specialist experts. It, we have still the first generation, like a couple of first generation of psychiatrists, but the 섭식장애가 very 치료하기 어렵다는 인식이 있어서 difficult to treat. 또 젊은 의사들은 섭식장애를 치료하려고 나서지 않고 있고, 또 보험도 안 돼 있고, no insurance coverage. 굉장히 열악한 상황입니다. 그것도 우리가 주장을 한다고 정책이 쉽게 바뀔 수 있는 것도 아니고, we must change the policies, but it's difficult to change by ourselves. 그래서 환자들과 그 가족들, 패밀리 케어러들은 혼자 남겨져 있고, no help, no support at all. No governmental support, no support. 또 부모님들은 굉장히 고생을 하고 있고, 아이들 역시 어떤 도움도 받지 못하고 있고, 그래서 이 부분이 굉장히 힘들고, 그래도 희망적인 건 우리가 섭식장 인식 주간을 하고 난 뒤에 좀 더 담론상의 변화가 생긴 것 같고, 그리고 뭔가 우리들만의 리빙 앤 리브드 익스피리언스를 갖고 있는 사람들의 네트워크가 생겨서 뭔가를 좀 더 노력을 해볼 수 있을 것 같다는 optimistic한 면도 갖고 있습니다.
And yeah, I think a lot of governments don't really care about eating disorders, but like it's a huge burden to them as well. Like in the UK, it's $1 billion like burden every year. But yeah, so I definitely think governments need to change a bit. So yeah, next question, a little bit more positive. Have you seen any better changes uh in terms of support for eating disorders in Korea? And what do you think caused these changes?
Eating disorders awareness week uh, helped us to reunite, connect each other. 예를 들어서, for example, lived experience를 갖고 있었지만 한 번도 자기 경험에 대해서 말을 해본 적이 없는 사람들이 제게 연락을 해오기 시작했고, 우리가 만나고 뭔가 같이 일을 할 수 있는 기회가 생겼어요. We became many. So women, I could I could have known if were not for the EDHW. They contact me and said I'm also the person with lived experience, but I have never told about this experience before. But thanks to the event, I changed my mind and want to speak about my experience. So I could have more friends. 그런 식으로 많은 친구를 갖게 됐고요. 그래서 우리끼리 더 많은 것을 할 수 있게 됐고, 같이 성장할 수 있게 됐어요. We can now grow up together, do more projects together. There are many friends who now writing their own books, contracts with publishing house, and friend of mine who participated uh, to our event very actively. She is a psychology researcher, researching the narrative of people with lived experience, and she presented herself at the Korea Society of Women Studies conference recently. I was very proud of her.
Yeah, I think I agree. Like I through eating disorder advocacy, I've seen so many people be like, what you telling your story has made me want to tell my story, and now we are friends. And I think having this network is really important, and I completely agree with what you say. Um, but yeah, have you seen any differences between your advocacy in Korea versus, like the Mighty Munchkin in Hong Kong? How are you guys different in your advocacy?
Korean society is relatively deaf to women's voices, unfortunately. Almost no youth speaking about all the sufferings of those affected by eating disorders because women's pain is always taken for granted. Women always complain about pain and nowhere to sincerely listen. They think because it's not sure whether women are telling the truth or lying. I read that researchers in the West point out the chronic disparity in research funding between other mental illnesses and eating disorders, but they still have research funding. But we don't have anything regarding eating disorders. It's not a risk for the nation. It's just a risk for women. We know the professor, eating disorder expert in Korea once said to me that she thinks one strategy to politicize the epidemic of eating disorder is to discuss it along with the issue of Korea's lowest birth rate, saying eating disorders may adversely affect the health of women of childbearing age. But I don't think so. I don't think so at all. Listening to her, I almost wanted to scream. If the nation is willing to protect women just for reproduction, I think we'd rather be famished to death. I really think so. And the difference between Korea and other countries, I think status of women first, firstly, yes, that's the most important difference. And one day I contacted several experts in Japan already, and one is Prof. Nakamura Hideyo, and the other one is president of a Japanese Academy of Eating Disorder, I think. And they surprised, both of them was very surprised at my story about the situation in Korea. They real surprised them. I think in Japan their progress is 우리보다 한국보다 거의 몇십 년은 앞서 있다고 생각이 들어요. 거기는 정말 당사자 연구, lived experience가 있는 사람들의 patient-led 리서치가 이미 이루어지고 있는 거를 알 수 있었고, 제가 지금 관심 있는 것도 patient lab research인 Professor Junko Kitanaka's article about 토지자研究 in Korean 당사자 연구. And we still lack such 당사자 연구, such 토지자 캠프 in Korea. That's very sad reality. And I hope we could promote such movement in Korea. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming. Thank you.